You all, the lucky folks who join us, a slight detour from our regular musically focused programming with a celebration, and clap your hands if you love this beautiful art form of poetry. Yeah, buddy. So today we're so excited to be partnering with Litquake, which has been the ongoing partner of this series. We also are now beginning to work with the Museum of the African Diaspora, which we're very excited about. But every second Tuesday in this space, 12:30, you can come down and hear from some of the writers and poets and people who are digging into themselves to share some things. So excited that you will be here today. I want to give a shout to everybody in the shade. If you want to come forward a little bit, we would love for you to come and be a part of the thing. But we're about to get started in a second. If you have any questions about the Yerba Buena Gardens Festival, I will encourage you to come over here and talk to Iggy and or Karina, as they have, clap it up for Iggy and Karina. They have calendars, and we have some nice t-shirts and hats if you want to support the festival and grab one of those. At the beginning of every one of our programs, we do choose to acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. Indigenous communities have lived and moved through this land over hundreds of generations, which when you think about it is a lot. That's a long, long time before any of us got to be here or our immediate ancestors. And indigenous peoples from many nations continue to make their home in this region today. So now and always, please do join us in honoring their ancestors, descendants, elders, and all other members of their communities. And with that said, and that acknowledgement made, let us begin. I'm going to introduce now to you a man who I'm sure many of you are familiar. He's the director of the Elder Program at Litquake and the curator of today's program. Please, folks, let's be warm when we introduce folks onto the stage today. Big round of applause for Kevin Dublin.
Hey, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming out this Tuesday afternoon. Middle of the day, it's beautiful, super sunny in San Francisco, which is one of those rare events, almost like as frequently as hurricanes come to North Carolina, I feel like is how much we get sun in San Francisco. Or at least around by these parts. Before we kick things off, because we're here and we're present, I want to do a couple things. I want to tell you a little bit about Litquake. Litquake? I said Litquake. And Litquake, a lot of people know as the 2-week festival, which goes on in early October, previously late September here in San Francisco, bringing tons of writers, both local as well as from all over the world, into the city. Beginning over 20 years ago. But it's not just the festival. There's the festival, and then there's programming which goes on through year round. Programming like being plugged into Yerba Buena Garden Festival and curating for the series here. Programming like that happens like Kidquake, like the Elder Project, which I direct. Programming like the Litcast, which is a podcast which you can go to. But I want you to go to litquake.org when you get the chance. Learn about all the fantastic things that are happening. And the second thing that I want to do is, again, when poets come up, we want to give poets love. We want to show appreciation. We want to let them know when there, are words or lines or moments that speak to you. And so, feel free to acknowledge with hand clap, with a snap, with fingers rubbing, whatever way you want to give there. But also please be respectful, maybe shouting out if there's something that, that kind of hits you or maybe it's triggering. Just take a moment and, please flame the head, not the heart. Poets are writing from a space of vulnerability, and so, we also respect your need to kind of just step away if you need to. And the third and final thing I want to do before, jumping up, because again, we're present, is to just take a quick moment to just recognize who we are, close our eyes, if you can close your eyes with me, to listen to the fountain, listen to the water falling, the giggles in the distance, feel the sun tingle against your lips, hear the grass rustle, the sun falling against it, feel your breathing, breathe, your heartbeat going faintly. Take a deep breath in. And a slow breath out. All right, thanks for sharing that breath with me. Open your eyes slowly. And let's get to some poetry. So first up is Katie Alafiri, who is a poet from San Francisco. She has been a featured performer at local international literary festivals and events, including the Melbourne Fringe Festival, North Beach First Fridays at City Like Books, and the SFU Center for Modern Greek Studies. Her work has been published in various anthologies, journals, and websites, including the San Francisco Public Library's Poem of the Day. Katie is the author of Foolishly Optimistic, which I brought my copy, so I was like, I gotta get this on, which is published by Nomadic Press. Give it up for Katie Alafiri.
Hi, that was a great introduction. I also needed that breath because, going first, there's always a little bit of extra excitement in that role. If you didn't know, today is the strawberry super full moon. I think it happened at 4 o'clock this morning, our time, but it's out there somewhere. So hopefully you can feel all that strawberry energy. And in one of my native languages, the word for strawberry literally translates to heartberry. And so I was thinking about hearts and berries and full moons. So I'm going to share some poems with you today that are kind of in line with our heartberries and our super strawberry moons. Oh, and thank you. Thank you, Yerba Buena Gardens Festival and Litquake and everybody here. This is so exciting to be outside sharing poetry. So in this piece, there's a repeating line in Greek that says, "To mialomu iremi mazisu," which means, my mind is quiet when I'm with you. Daydream desires. Sometimes I daydream about deep diving into your eyes, but your brown buoys keep me floating. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Sometimes I daydream about the chill of solo winters, but your embrace brings heat. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Sometimes I daydream about thirsting in the desert, but you always carry water. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Sometimes I daydream about speed and haste of racing, but you know when to press the brakes. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Sometimes I daydream about the uneasy unknown, but you communicate so damn clearly. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Sometimes I daydream about the fathomless future, but you have me living now. And then, to mialomu iremi mazisu. Thank you. This piece is called First Morning. Turns out my celestial suspicions were right. Your skin is made of stars. Your center, the sun, warming everything it touches, everything it nears. A trio of tiny planets dance on the slope of your shoulder, and I should be sleeping, but I lay here, content, elated even, watching the cosmos on display. Thank you. This piece is called Se Chryazomaste, or the ancient Greek study of the pomegranate. You transcend time. You, an orb of seeds, each seed a star, each star full of wisdom and life and love and luck and everything ancient. Your juice, this resilient red, colors everything it touches, including my hands, now that you've placed part of yourself in my palms, a beautiful and real rosy hue. And I mean it when I say the world does not deserve you. The world does not deserve you. I do not deserve time with you. Or maybe I do. And maybe your stars will help me learn that I do. But despite deserving or undeserving or desire for deserving, how I need you, how we need you, how we need everything your stars carry. Woo. Thank you. All right, I think I'm gonna do one more piece for you. This one also has a couple of Greek words in it, which I will translate for you now. Ελλάδα is the Greek word for Greece, the country, the name of the country. Prophetis Elias is the name of a mountain, literally translate to Prophet Elijah, but I don't know, they name their mountains after prophets, I guess. And then the title, Θέλω, means I want. Θέλω. I want to take you to Ελλάδα, sit with you at the top of Prophetis Elias, at the top of the world, sit with you under olive trees, at the end of the world, see what ancient knowledge they bestow upon you. I want to take you to Ελλάδα, walk with you barefoot through sacred soil, see what roots sprout from your toes, from the soles of your feet. I want to take you to Ελλάδα, lay with you in the summer sun, hear the words the heat speaks to your skin, see the visions it reflects in your eyes. I want to take you to Ελλάδα, show you the beach where I baptized myself into the person you know. See what happens when you swim in those waters. I want to take you to Ελλάδα, watch my ancestral stars shimmer on your chest, watch them land among and illuminate your hair. Watch them crown you in ancient night. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful day. Thank you for sharing your energy. And happy strawberry super full moon, whatever it's called. Yay. Woo.
Oh, let's give it up one more time for Katie. Right? Oh. It's like I just like noticed the earrings. I'm like, oh, everything perfect. It's like, and the poems. I feel like my my approach to curation in like any sense is always like, oh, who did I learn from? And it's like I learn different things from everyone. And one of the things when like, you know, hearing Katie's work and reading Foolishly Optimistic was just this idea of space and pause and being. And if you get the book and you read it, you'll doubly understand. Let's go to our next poet. Carla Brundage is a Bay Area-based poet, activist, and educator with a passion for social justice. Born in Berkeley, California, Carla spent most of her childhood in Hawaii, where she developed a deep love of nature. She's the founder of West Oakland, the West Africa Poetry Exchange, which has facilitated cross-cultural exchange between Oakland and West African poets. Her editorial experience includes a Pan-Africanist poetry collection, Our Spirits Carry Our Voices, published by Pacific Raven Press in 2020. Oakland Out Loud, 2017, and Words Upon the Waters, 2006, but both by Jukebox Press. Her poetry book, Swallowing Watermelons, was published by Ishmael Reed Publishing Company in 2006. Her poetry, short stories, and essays have been widely anthologized and can be found in Hip Mama, Literary Kitchen, Lotus Press, Bamboo Bridge Press, Vibe, and Conch Literary Magazine. She holds an MA in Education from San Francisco State University, an MFA from Mills College, and I also noted that Mulatto Not So Tragic, also fantastic book, which is a book of poetry exchange. I'm just throwing that in there. And I bet that if there's something literary that you love in San Francisco, that in like the Bay Area in general, Carla has been a part of it in some way. Let's welcome Carla Brundage.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm like, did I really send that bio? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. That was such a beautiful reading, and I have a kind of a sad poem I'm gonna open up with, just because of, I don't know. I called it Dear Community, so I'm gonna start with this. It's brand new, I've never read it out loud in public. Dear Community, cut my scalp onto this cloth. Take my head wrap, dripping blood. Warp it into your own. Wear my skin like you own it. Place these beads from my waist into your ears. Excavate my eggs and eat them on your plate as a garnish. Palate your tongue with sugar from my clitoris. Garnish your wrist with the smallest bone of my left toe. Rest the air from my lungs into plastic bottle between your knuckles. Rest your fake hair on my chest. Here you can play the doll of your hatred housed in lockless doors with golden coins in a locked chest. Sever the locks from my scalp and wrap them in a song you shout in the wind. Coin your winnings. It is the key-locked vault. Win the coinage in your sad, sad heart. I am not anything but a finger, thumb. You have taken my scalp and my spine, my voice and my mind. I have emptied all for you, and you have opened your greedy, greedy mouth to swallow.
Woo.
Thank you. That's an in memory of. So this poem is co-written with a good friend of mine, Allison, as a poetry exchange. We exchanged poems over 10 years of time, using the last line of hers would be the first line of mine, etc. So each of these first lines I want to credit to Allison Francis. And I also want to just say it's a wonderful book about, like, well, it's been a wonderful time exchanging poetry with a friend for that long. So this one is called In Memory Of, also for Zora and Lorraine, Zora Neale Hurston and Lorraine Hansberry. And the souls of black folk will listen finally to the black-brown tragic girl, see that she is all ocean, the coral and the fish below, not just the star or the paper bag, but the plastic and showing out, glitter, sequins, popped balloons, debris, and college degrees. She is everything and the kitchen sink. Nothing she is. Flowing tears that teach, not tear her hair songs of never had a voice until now. She is young and gifted. She is watching God who colored her outside of white, black lines. Gifted and kissed black by blood, which lies in lines of genealogy, so full of voice and waiting to escape, throat closed and choked by silencing the whole bigness of her. Muddy waters flow deep, angel wings and trouble, spilling out and bottled. Her hope belongs to the sky. This one is kind of like a walk with another friend through Oakland. And some of you may recognize some of the places. It's called Injera. To lay foundations for a better way, Audrey called me to tell me about the white injera at Cafe Colucci. For years we have been meeting at Cafe Colucci, an Ethiopian restaurant with an Italian name. It took us a while to adapt to that concept, but we liked it. It had slow service, but the best food on the Telegraph Strip, at least to us, not being from Ethiopia. We knew that Blue Nile had a tourist recipe, and we did not go there, but Colucci had such good injera, Tibbs, Kebe, and Berebere. Anyway, when Audrey called, she was like, I'm on my way to Club Colucci, which is where we go to cry. It is where I wrote my cell phone poem and where I told her about the beer on G's head. It's where Dee took me when he picked me up from the airport. I used to live in a house behind its kitchen. I could smell the spices from my backyard. Now they are serving white injera. I said to Audrey, you know what that means, right? We laughed. We are brown girls who are half white. We have complicated stories. I was raised by my black and revolutionary mother. She was adopted by 2 black parents. When you look at us, you see some kind of mix. You might say, hey, why does Cafe Colucci serve Ethiopian food? But that is what we are. Black girls who don't make sense to the regular world. But we like our food to be authentic. I said, you know what this means, right? And she said, no, in that loaded way that she says everything. She tells me about teaching at OUSD, about children, about funerals lost, and children lost to gun violence. We are watching the black children move to other cities. Now maybe the teachers will go next. And finally, they will turn the injera white too. And it's not yet April. Thank you.
Oh, let's keep it going for Carla. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. And you know, there's so much that we see change, and just beautiful work. Again, talking about that idea of what, you know, of like, oh, what did I learn from? I feel like one of the things specifically, you know, I always learn from Carla's work is, you know, you have that like William Butler Yeats like saying, which is, or quote, which is like, oh, to argue with others is rhetoric, but to make argument with self is poetry. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, whoa, okay, argument with the self. But what, you know, there's never a single modality. And like one of the things I always learn from Carla's work is like, you can also, one, just not argue. And two, you can have conversation in community. And so, yeah, thank you. All right, next poet. It's gonna keep being amazing, y'all. Who's excited? Who's excited? Who is excited? There it is. David S. Maduli is a father of two, veteran public school teacher, DJ, and author of the chapbook 33 and Third, which is, it's dope. Which is on Zoetic Press 2018. He's alumnus of the VONA, Las Dos Brujas, and Napa Valley Writers Workshop. And he was a 2011 recipient of the Joy Harjo Poetry Prize, descendant of Filipino immigrants, born in San Francisco and raised all over. He's a longtime resident of Oakland, California, completed his MFA in creative writing at Mills College with a fellowship in Community Poetics. Let's give it up for David S. Maduli.
Ocean Beach. To begin, stand on beach. Souls dusted with footprints of 1,000 waves. Years ground up by shells and tides. Sun scribbles across the sky. Seasons come every 5 seconds, crashing into crashing. Wind takes some January off the top, flinging it to ether. Pace mounds of kelp like I grew them. Nudge shards of abalone like I painted them, like I invented iridescence. Greet ocean like my 9th grade best friend. Step horizon like a stepladder. Horizon, raise me like family. Lola, Lolo, Mom, Dad. I know you are horizon. No, horizon is not a line, it is lineage. Today, clouds ran and hid inside surf. Today, sky has no roof. Today, I'm taller than seagulls, breathe wider than trade winds. Exhale, exospheric. Up here, shoulders upon shoulders carry me. Up here, nothing is missing but boundaries that were never there to begin with. To begin, stand on beach. Yes. Peace out. I'm David Maduli. So I'm gonna keep reading San Francisco poems if y'all don't mind. And I don't know if there's any other folks from here in the Bay originally. If you're not originally from here, it's all good, but be nice to us because it can be disorienting and painful to be walking around among so many ghosts. This one begins at my Lola's house in the Outer Mission. She passed a year ago. She would have been 104 years old. So yeah. Your family's weekend drive from Lola's house in Outer Mission to the Presidio is a jagged, roiling run, impossible to trace by the tourists you spy lining up to catch a cable car down San Francisco's hilly grid. Past Glen Park Station, the road hairpins in the shadows of Twin Peaks, waterfalls into West Portal, then sinks into the canyons and gauntlet of trees around McAteer High. The grid beyond is true. You track the alphabetic order, of streets, Quintana, Pacheco, Ortega, Noriega, Moraga, Lawton, Kirkham, Judah, Irving, into Golden Gate Park. From one side to the other is not a straight line, more like a half-remembered dream, dozing in and out between joggers and bicyclists and jarring you onto Arguello and another grid, up Geary, Clement, where you pull over for a box of fresh steamed Chopal tied with pink string, then the steepest ridge into the old army base where you were born, take photos with your sister, perching on cannons and standing barely taller than cannonballs. Then around to the old fort under the famous bridge where dad folds down the trunk. Mom opens the box, still warm and dotted with moisture. You watch the waves and the seagulls, feed them the sticky, sweet, blood pink pork, only chewing the white bun. You always drift asleep on the ride home, rocking and bumping slightly on the window as dusk overtakes you. Years later, you tell college friends the story of the Golden Gate Park runners. As you drive through the trees, a figure appears, jogging next to your window. You speed up, and even faster still, and the runner is still there beside you. As you twist and turn, and it is nearly pitch dark, except what's in front of your headlights. You can't shake the runner, even if you mash the gas to the bottom of Stowe Lake, and they don't stop running, and the ghosts keep slipping the lakes and windmills and buffalo meadows until this San Francisco and every San Francisco is long gone. Come, run, grandson. On another fog, we will rest. Woo! All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Litquake, Yerba Buena Gardens. I'm gonna end with this piece. I wrote it 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, at the beginning of the pandemic, March 2020, and was after the shelter-in-place order came out. And so I wrote it in the form of a county health order, and it's disconcerting, but not surprising how relevant it still is today. City of quarantine, state of emergency, Department of Poetic Justice. Impervious poem number CV1993-infinity. Declaring grocery runs, now a peril for all, albeit not so perilous as for any black youth with a hoodie. As such, while idling in the Trader Joe's parking lot, streaming a radio broadcast from Jamaica, the swell of background vocals on the chorus of Destiny would bring the driver to tears. The sax player's stoicism would lend the necessary courage to stand in line 20 deep. The small yet inadequate blessing of antibacterial wipes distributed at the door like raffle tickets. Whereas only a few inches distancing him and the shopper who insisted on reaching in front for the marinara jar reminds him of the Redwood Trail the day before, when the jogger barreled between his small children, the sweat that tinged the mountain air, the unusual condition of entitlement and displacement, a pandemic. Declaring his nurse cousin's bandana an insufficient barrier for infectious droplets and anti-Asian hate. Declaring the presence of National Guard tanks to distribute aid, an emergency in existence. Declaring the term new normal, a widespread misnomer that must cease for what crises should be deemed normal, heretofore or today, within which territorial jurisdictions of language is normal, not synonymous with oppression. In accordance with the authority vested in the uprising seas, it is hereby ordered that children be hugged tight, taught chess, and read books by Octavia Butler, that quarantine mates distant and near dance reggaeton, drink, and make love, that flames be for cooking and feeding family, until they become flames for Capitol buildings. That the city erupt with mariposa lilies and sea otters. That the stock market close forever. Pursuant to universal law, the ancestors and the apocalyptic snare reverb of Dilla's Fall in Love. This poem is to go into effect immediately and shall stay in effect until further notice. Thank you.
Yes. Let's give it up for David. Oh. Ooh. I wanted more like that reverb. Y'all got more than that? Oh. Yes. Again, with those things that, we learn. I mean, I feel like I came to poetry through hip hop, and, I feel like I kept writing poems because I was like, actually, I can't even rap that well. But one of those things, learn from David and his work, is just like, you always have, I feel like, it's one of those things where, you find a beat and you have a rhythm, but it's what's actually difficult is weaving in those rhythms of like life and like living in this consistent, but also this breakbeat way, and David's got it, so thank you. Oh. And may that poem stay in effect. Got two more poets for you. So, Dr. Jean Powell holds degrees from Wayne State University and University of San Francisco. She is a published poet and essayist with 4 books in print from Tar and Horn Press, My Own Silence, 2 Seasons, Word Dancing, and Deeply Notched Leaves, which is the latest dope book. Additionally, she has published a collection of essays titled Carousel with Regent Press. Jean founded Meridian Press Works, which published 20 writers in 20 years. For a decade, she hosted Celebration of the Word, a weekly open mic. And for 7 years, Jean has been the lead facilitator for Write If You Dare at McKinney's Institute Library in San Francisco, which is Thursdays at 11 a.m. And still going on Zoom. Jean's film and cultural reviews appear online at starkinsider.com, and they are always super insightful. Let's give it up for Jean Powell.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to see everybody here. I don't always call myself a poet. I'm intimidated by the fact that I forgot to get an MFA. So I just write stuff. Sometimes people like it. I'm going to read from 2 Seasons. A friend of mine has a tea room in Burlingame, used to be here in the city. And when I was sitting there, enjoying tea, white tea, red tea, green tea, black tea, I wrote this. She likes it with a little cream, this tawny tea from Cedarburg, green hills in the south of Africa. She heard they harvested in summer, let the herb ferment a while, then dried it in the streaming sun. Deep red mahogany. She likes her word songs deeply brewed, so they linger night long, round and open in sweet cellars of the soul, then burst out feather bright to word dance with the morning light, consuming doubts and random fears, divinely sprawled on luscious leaves. She likes it with a little cream, this bingo, bango, mango, black tea bowl pot of turbulence, dripping rich, ripe, leafy chant, ocean pearls in her curly hair, every steaming cup she drinks, emancipated, sparkling glow. She likes it with a little cream. Sometimes I watch nature films on the internet because I no longer turn on my television. I turned it off in November 2016 for my own mental health. And I saw a remarkable documentary about a man who works with elephants, training domesticated elephants to fight wild elephants to keep them off the farmland so they can live a little longer. A man reflects upon elephants. He loves them and lives for them, sees the terrible danger as they push to defend their traditional grazing lands from humans who tamper with natural order and procreate into multitudes, spilling into elephant walks and trails, laying claim and laying siege. He must save them, but how? In his desperation, this man becomes brilliant and brave and blazes new trails in species preservation. He trains domesticated elephants to fight their wild brethren, patrol the shifting boundaries, and challenge their wild cousins with chilling trumpets and tusks flaring. The wild ones are at a disadvantage, not knowing the game or its high stakes, and finally give way before this bizarre aggression led by a man on the back of an elephant. The wild ones retreat to live another season, or perhaps go mad from the unreality of shrinking ground, and so cannot return to thank the man who loves elephants so much that he organized an army of them to keep their wild brethren out of the range of farmers' guns for one more season. Some of you remember Nancy, who ran the reading at the 3300 Club at 29th and Mission. Well, she and I were dining out one night near 29th and Mission. We sat outside the Mission Street Cafe, cradled in mismatched rocking chairs, full of trips down memory lane. "Do you have any discounts?" we asked. "Not in this lifetime," the owner grinned. Plunging in, we ordered southern chicken, potatoes mashed and gravied, a vinegar touch on the collard greens, sweet dates wrapped in thick bacon strips, followed by bourbon pecan pie and a little vanilla ice cream. The owner liked our style. He sent over tiny cornbread muffins and a side of steamed asparagus, compliments of the house. We spoke of other women's lovers who still lived in the hood and ranked them according to the heartache they had caused. We rated our various brilliant careers in states too numerous to mention and agreed that not working at all rivaled anything we had done. And we drank to that more than once. I have two more. This one is about urban renewal, the dual face of fear. In my city, walking along my streets looking like the visitor you are, you give me that look that says you are questioning my credentials, my authenticity, my right to be here in my city. Walking in my direction, you suddenly notice my golden brown roundness and show all those attitudes, entertain all those postures, grabbing your purse and holding it close in as I walk past you. Let me tell you something. All the while you brush past me wearing African jewelry and cornrow braids, a touch of blackness in fashion where you come from, while you clutch your designer knockoff, making me unwelcome in my own hood when I walk by on my sidewalk. Let me tell you something. You clearly cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is fake. So listen up real good, wench. If I wanted to, I could remove your fake face and paste it on that designer knockoff, but since no part of you is real, why should I bother? And one poem from my new manuscript. It's an acrostic poem. The work of art is Dorothy in the Mansion by Sheldon Green. You can find it online. You, brave belle with the saucy hair, curls flowing through red ribbons, invincible in that dress. Wearing those Dorothy heels, clipped together, but walking a long mile on stairs full of carpet that never shielded you from the hard steps you had to climb. Staring down the past, you put on that red dress reserved for warrior women. Gloried in its fiery color, whose blood consecrated that staircase, winding down, closing down all doubt and division. This life was yours to keep. At cost, no profit, but losses balanced out. You, battle strong with the saucy hair, armed with ribbons of valor, triumphant at last. Thank you. I have 2 copies with me.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going up for Jean. Got 2 copies of Word Stands With Her. Just saying. Poets, who else has books with them? I'm just saying, come talk to him. We got one more poet who is also gonna be amazing and blow your mind. And to continue with, we'll learn from, we'll kind of like learn from each poet. It's more like a I feel like a lot of times when we look at poetry and we think like, I can't write poems, every poem's gonna have this like epiphany that's in like poet voice, that's like, and then like the 4 windowsills on the side of that building were actually my brother and sister, which is like, it's not like how it has to be. There's not this one, there's not these 4 ways of doing things, and if you don't do it that way, it's not there. It's really this way of like having like insight or way of having like epiphany, but with just like a genuine, but like with a genuine voice, with a little sass. You gotta have that sass sometimes. So thank you, Jimmy. And now, let's give it up for Preeti Vangani, who is a poet. Oh no! It's little rewind. Preeti Vangani is a poet and writer from Mumbai, writing and teaching in the Bay Area. She is the author of Mother Tongue Apologize 2019, which is winner of the RL India Poetry Prize. Her work has been published in 3 Penny Review, Gulf Coast, Cortland Review, among many other places. Graduate of the University of San Francisco's MFA program, Preeti has received fellowships and support from UCross, Tin House, Napa Valley's Writers Conference, California Center for Culture and Innovation, and if I'm like, it was just a residency she was telling me about, and I'm like, oh man, that's dope, I want to go do that. But it's also not on this list. She is taught with Youth Speaks and at the MFA writing program at the University of San Francisco. Let's give it up for Preeti Vangani.
I decided to read from my phone on the one day when it can possibly conk off because of how hot it is. It already gave me one warning, but let's hope it pulls through for 5 minutes. A little more. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Litquake, for organizing. Thank you, Sun, for showing up and giving us our 5 days of summer. This first poem is called Which Nail Do I Hang My Longings On? To be virtuous to his body, but graceful to his hunger, my beloved often walks on that side of the road where the pizzeria is. Just a whiff of bread and cheese is enough to lift my spirit, he says, sinning without sinning. I, by contrast, rushed to the farmer's market this morning, fearing they'd run out of cherries. Cherry season, unlike my hunger, is terribly short. Yet, having just stepped out of the house, I got distracted by a blooming bottle brush tree. Its red, boisterous spikes, surprising as blood, tufts towering up and up into that realm where we gaze when we want hope to return our call. Asiman says, we remember best what could have happened but did not. But why am I stuck reading Andre Asiman, reading about his confounding desires tonight this late when there is such a reproductive energy in the air? Poppies are propagating everywhere, even in janky parking lots. Pink tulips elevate on our dresser. And just last month, I had seen a whale in the Pacific, seen clavicles of snow tinting Seattle's mountains. I am bathed regularly by beauty. I know this. I know it vanishes. It is the vanishing that stalls me, drives me. How I delay drinking water to elongate the taste of what I ate. Did you know? The superstar Shah Rukh Khan shook my hand once, and I bawled when my mother asked me to wash my hands after for dinner. Now my hand is at the window, sensing the metal of our temperamental fog that wants to settle over every surface and crook. If smoke is a symbol of forgetting, fog is a sign of fleeting memory. Wishes scroll by me like the ticker of a news channel. Car lights crackle at my sill, disappearing as they appear. When my mother died, I was far away, partying it up in her birth city. I keep imagining I witnessed her passing. Thank you. This next one is called Questions for My Body, after Eduardo C. Corral. How many mirrors have you frowned into? You let him in because? Did your mother teach you to sit like this? Who started it though? How does the uterus feel under the boot heel of a congressional floor? When did you grow hair there? Ask your bones if they give you the permission to squat deeper today. Missy, where did we agree the leg lands in turnout? We want to present an open thigh, don't we? Don't give me Vegas, give me grace. If your fingers hurt, carry the groceries like a baby. Baby, can we be more into the sex? What are you doing in the dream where mother is alive? Salad or fries? All right. Whew. My first book came out a couple of years ago. It's called Mother Tongue Apologize, and I wrote it for my mother, who I lost when I was 22. My mother was 42 when she passed away. And this poem that I wrote recently also delves into the same grief, but it's for my father. Unrewarding. From my father's cupboard, I fish out the familiar purple tin, heavy with his old coin collection. Let his vintage piggy bank waterfall into a pyramid of silver on the bed. Anas, atannas, chavannis, from when a gallon of milk was a chavanni. Sparkling gold guineas. My favorite, though, is a 1 Anna coin that my father, still in school, threw on the railway tracks to see what a fast train could do to the penny. It is important, I think, for me to like this blanked metal, a little crimped moon, because it reminds me that my father, the constant harborer of hurry and worry, the man who plots to leave a room as soon as he enters it, once stood still as a summer afternoon, back of his knees, sweating sweet, tapping his feet at the edge of a railway platform to simply observe the workings of pressure. Just as he sat, rocking his chair, slow as a lullaby, for 3 months and more by my mother, comatose in a non-AC hospital room. By then, he was done running her memory back by purring the songs she loved. By then, the only song was him waiting and his resting heart like an empty bucket, poised to be filled with the water of courage. What is his exit strategy now? Where does he hide his sorrow? Between the same molars that once thickened as honeycombs with mummy's roti crumbles, deep fried in sugar and ghee, kutti, we call this rich breakfast. And dad's salesman superstition is to absolutely eat kutti on the first of every month. Kutti on the tongue he used to sing means Lakshmi will come chan chan chan. Once he sang for more money, once he sang for more of mummy. Now before work, he gulps down 3 Mari biscuits, a glass of milk, rubs his belly and says, I'm superbly full. He knows he isn't. He knows I know he isn't. Fullness is his currency of consolation, his way of saying, I know we are grieving for your mother, but I don't want you to also grieve for my hunger. Right. And then I'll do one last poem. This poem takes place I've been in San Francisco for the last 6 years. I came here to study creative writing, and it's just been so kind to me. I see my writing life as my second life. And one of the spaces I hold really dearly in my heart when I used to live in the Inner Sunset was the arena, the concourse between the Young and the Cal Academy of Sciences. Today is a great day to be there, so if you're free after this, I invite you all to go there as well. This poem is called an abid. An abid is basically a poem that takes place in the late hours of night, early hours of morning, and it has a goodbye of some kind. Abid with mother gone. And then it came back to me as I heard a young boy practice his violin under the concrete canopy of the park's amphitheater, the Italian phrase, dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. Although the student was not doing nothing, the violin, like a prayer pressed between his chin and shoulder, our one virus that had perhaps pushed him out of home, alone taking his lesson on his phone screen with no audience to applaud except a dad chasing his daughter chasing bubbles. And isn't observing a toddler tailing bubbles the equivalent of sneaking in a mid-morning nap? Oh yes, look how they were all occupied in their business of joy, and I sat with a croissant so buttery I could seduce it. But really, I was just tired of the news, tired of counting the dead, then remembering the dead. I sat with coffee I did not need. I was beyond awake, hallucinating the eucalyptus was my playful grandfather, gone last week. Oh no, gone we knew when he wouldn't even eat soup. What is the feeling that the smell of trees fills one with, which is so much like slowing down our pace wherever we were, so Grandpa could catch up. Dear world, I prayed, go slow today. Take one person less in your mortal stead. Lend us all an extra hour. Let's make no productive claim of calling it this time a saving. Instead, a stillness of feeling, triumphantly useless, like the myriad minutes spent looking through thick branches to spot the singing blue jay, knowing the bird, like happiness, will have flown elsewhere before you can trace the exact source of its little fulfilling music. Thank you so much. Woo! Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, let's keep it going for Preeti. Oh, you've got more than that. Let's keep it going for Preeti. Oh, love it. Fantastic. It's one of those things, and it's one of those things where, we're always on a journey of many different things, and the art of losing isn't hard to master. And one of the things that was an Elizabeth Bishop joke. Who doesn't love villanelles? But grief is something that that's really been a part of my own life and writing it and trying to understand it and process it. And I feel like there's so many different ways of doing that. And they can also be in joy. You can celebrate, and that's like one of the things that I learned from Preeti and her work. And I thank you, Preeti. Before we come to an end, I believe let's give it up for Yerba Garden Festival. How amazing is it that this exists? If this exists, you're here right now, and poetry just happened in this park. I think, right? We want to celebrate that, right? Orange helmet on the bike, right? Yeah, exactly. He just riding by and like, whoa, I was just a part of this. And I believe that we have like a bucket where we can take some donations for the festival. So if you have anything large, small, that you're willing to contribute, please do. We want to make sure that this can keep happening, that the other things that happen here continue to happen, from partnerships with other, nonprofits and orgs like Museum of African Diaspora, which will be here next month on, right? Who doesn't love Moab? 826 Valencia, I've definitely been here in terms of like projects like, here with them, dance festivals that have kind of taken place. There's so much that happens. We want to keep it happening, right? The same way that, again, mention all those programs with Litquake. If you go to litquake.org, you can, see the festival, and that it's happening this year, two weeks, and it's going to be in person as well as virtual. There's going to be tons of events. It's going to be amazing. The Lit Crawl, which tops it off on the final Saturday of the event, which is like essentially a bar crawl, but with words and drinks. You can still drink in some places, So you're going to have poetry, you're going to have fiction, you're going to have nonfiction. And then again, all the programming that happens year round. I have, of course, a bias for the Elder Project because I direct it. And it's so important to hear the stories of our elders and get them, writing and sharing. So thank you for being here. Thank you to all the poets, to Katie Alafierce, to Carla Brundage. I'm like trying to do this in alphabetical order. To David S. Maduli, to Jean Powell, and to Preeti Vangani. Thank you to all of the poets. Thank you to Litquake. Thank you to your VONA Garden Festival. And thank you to all of you, because you could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here. Have a great rest of this beautiful day.
Real quick, folks, with so much appreciation, we'd be remiss if we didn't show some love for the gracious host and the curator of today's event. Can y'all give it up one more time with all of your emotion and all that you can? Give it up for Kevin Dublin, please. And check him out. Check out Litquake. Give thanks, and as we move through this time of Strawberry Moon, for the iridescence of abalone, and for Injera, and for the smoke and the fog and all the other things that help us to connect in this life and time. And we would love for you to connect with the Yerba Buena Gardens Festival. We're out here. We got actually a very full week with 2 shows on Thursday. Those are both beautiful. I hate to diminish any by highlighting others, but a really powerful celebration of hula this Saturday with Nale Hulu, and that's going to be a beautiful day if you can join. And then one of our annual favorites in the world without favorites, the Native Contemporary Arts Festival this Sunday. So if you can make the time, find the time to come and get down with us, we would love to see you and yours. And this felt like a really good and attentive Tuesday, Poetic Tuesday. So please tell your people to come and join us every second Tuesday in this space. As always, our shows are free and available to you. Thanks to those who filled out a survey and made a donation. And one more time, give a big round of applause, please, to all the poets and to Kevin, everybody who shared with us today. Pick up Jean's book, Katie's book, everybody who got a book, and support the artists. Much love, everyone. Thanks for coming.